Hello everyone, this video will cover Module 3. So in Module 3, we are going to move past the introductory information and we are now starting on your first essay, which is going to be a narrative essay. So the book is divided into different patterns, hence it's called Patterns for College Writing. And so all of your essays in this class are going to follow a specific type of pattern. We start with a narrative pattern because that tends to be, for most students, one of the easier patterns to follow. And so you'll have some information that you're going to read from the book and some examples that you'll see as well, and then you'll complete the assignment as we go forward. So the essay is not in this module, you're actually preparing for it, and that's how we'll go through each of our essays for this class. You'll do some kind of pre-writing and preparation, and depending on which essay it is, we may have 2 or 3 modules that you'll be working on it, and then you'll actually turn the essay in the final draft after that point. So let me show you what this module looks like. You can see it looks fairly short. You have 2 basic things that you're going to work on, and that is a quiz and then a pre-writing journal. Now, we just completed a pre-writing journal in Module 2, and that was just a kind of a generic practice of pre-writing techniques. Now you're going to apply those same techniques to an actual narrative essay. So this time you have an essay assignment, and so you're going to be practicing those same pre-writing techniques in actually completing and preparing for an essay, which will be finishing in the next module. So you're not even writing the essay yet. The readings cover narration, description. There are actually, it looks like a lot of information. The chapters really aren't that long, but there is quite a bit on narration in the chapter in the book. And then I also want you to read this from the description chapter. You'll notice it's not quite as long. And so pay attention to the page numbers because we're not actually writing a description essay, we're writing a narrative essay. So I want you to just kind of keep that in mind as you're reading through this. The examples and the information from the narration chapter are what you're actually going to use on the essay. And then you have a couple of examples that you're going to read as well. And then the quiz. The quiz is, again, one of those that you can take as many times as you want in order to get the grade that you want. And it does have 10 questions that'll just kind of go through, and you get a point per question. So I do encourage you to take it more than once if you don't get a good score the first time. So this is the essay assignment. What you're going to do for the essay is think of an event that's happened in your life, something that like an incident of some kind where you can kind of narrow down to something specific that happened to you that changed you as a person. And so I encourage you to think about this event in the context of how are you going to describe it to the reader? How are you going to show us how significant it was to you? And how are you going to show us how you changed from it? And you might think about events. Most students kind of fall back immediately on deaths, births, marriages, things like that, which are actually life-altering events, but they are fairly common as far as human experience is concerned. And so I kind of encourage students to look beyond that. I don't censor students' topics on essays. And so if you're comfortable writing about it and that's what you feel you can do the best with this assignment, then go for it. But I do kind of encourage you to look past that. Otherwise, especially with the death of loved ones, if everybody writes about a death, it gets kind of morbid when I have to read 25 of them. So I do kind of encourage you to think beyond that, particularly things that are unique to you as a person. So I usually give the example of when I was in college, I chose to study abroad in Germany, and that was a pretty life-altering event for me. And it was obviously, I was there for like 7 or 8 months, something like that. And so it was a long time period. I don't want to write about the entire experience because that would take a very long time. But there are a few incidents that happened during my trip that I would choose, particularly just getting there and arriving at the airport and how overwhelming it was to be in a new place, and just the decisions that I made getting there on that day and, choosing to actually stay and go through with it. That was pretty big for me. So those are the types of things that I would think about, is anything that felt particularly momentous for you, even if they might not be momentous for someone else. So the essay itself, though, is just going to be telling the story. And since most of you are probably familiar with how a story works, that's what you're going to focus on. We're leading up to the event. You're describing the storyline of the event. You're going to use lots of good description. And the chapter on description talks about the difference between objective and subjective descriptions. You'll have some dialogue, which would be what characters say during the event, so what people are saying. Occasionally I have a student with a story where they're the only person in the story, so they're out hunting or something, and in which case they don't actually talk out loud, and you'll want to use thoughts then for dialogue. You'll have an implied thesis statement for this one. So we did just learn about thesis statements. Some students do include a sentence at the end of their introduction that really just tells us the moral of the story, and that's fine. But for the most part, including it in the conclusion is kind of this is what I learned from the event, is perfectly fine. And obviously writing in first person, because this is about you, not about someone else. Don't write it in third person. It gets weird if you try and do that. And past tense. It'll all be in past tense. So once you've looked over the assignment, then you're going to do this pre-writing exercise. So the first step is to do a free write. Free flow of ideas. You can choose one or more of these prompts to write about. So you may decide that you can pick this first one and you just write about this event where you get a strong emotion. I do this one in my face-to-face classes. We talk about fear, an incident in their life when they felt fear, because that can be a good one to think of events for. But you could use any of these. I've had a lot of good stories written about, like events where they accomplished something really important to them, and it may be a sports related thing, a school related thing, or it may be some other type of award that they received, or not. Sometimes the better stories are when you think you're going to succeed at something and you don't, and you fail. I've had a lot of good stories about people that they've met where they just had one kind of brief moment where they met someone and it just changed their perspective on life a little bit. I've had some good stories about career choices where they, either maybe it was job shadow, or they just had an experience where they realized that this career was right for them, or maybe the opposite, and this career is absolutely not right for them. So there's going to be a lot of ways that you can brainstorm ideas for this essay, but you're going to use one or more of these prompts. You can write about all of them if you want to, or just one. It doesn't matter, but you're going to just type continuously for 10 minutes. That's all I'm looking for. Don't stop to think things over, just continuous typing. We practiced free writing in the previous module. And then the second part of this pre-writing journal is an outline. And since you're doing this in a Word document, you can just do one and then the other in the document if you want to, or you can do them in separate documents. But the outline is just going to be a timeline of the event. It's not really an outline, because outlining a story is kind of hard, but if you're not actually writing the story, but this is just kind of your idea for your working thesis, your implied thesis, the significance of the event, and then you go through the 5 stages of a story we talk about on a story arc that looks something like this. You may have done this in high school where you have to map out a story. The 5 sections: exposition, rising action, the climax, which is the moment whatever happens, and then the falling action, results, and conclusion. And so that's what I want you to type out. And these are just your plans. It might not end up like this, but these are just your plans. So this just gives me a chance to give you some feedback on what you've chosen for your essay and before you actually start writing it. So that is Module 3. If you have any questions, you can always send me an email. Otherwise, have a great week.